The first responding officer usually gives directions to the crime scene, and the following steps should be followed to ensure the security of a crime scene. 1. Before leaving the police cruiser, ask dispatch to call for assistance with how many officers are needed to help the operations within the scene. 2. Begin to control the situation as fast as possible. Call dispatch and get them to notify the identification officers, the supervisor, and the medical personnel if they are needed. 3. If there are any injured individuals, it is important to attend to them immediately and prevent others from being injured as well. 4. Locate potential witnesses and gather their information. You need their names, addresses, phone numbers, and date of birth. 5. Have either yourself or another officer begin securing the crime scene. Restrict access to and from the location of the scene by setting up checkpoints at the entrances and the exits. This can be done by forming a perimeter around the entire area with yellow crime scene tape. 6. Once more officers arrive at the scene, have one officer stay with the injured party. While that officer is aiding the injured person, they should gather their information and give them to you. 7. Have another officer guard the evidence on the scene until a forensic team arrives in order to prevent damages from the evidence. 8. Locate the witnesses and gather information on the suspects if the suspect is not at the scene when you arrive. 9. In your notebook, prepare a rough sketch of the crime scene and present the location of evidence, bloodstains, location of victims, etc. When dealing with witnesses, the first thing you want to do is record their information. 1. Their name, first and last. 2. Their address. 3. Their phone number. 4. Their date of birth. It is important to ask the witnesses open-minded questions so their answers are not swayed in any way. When asking questions, you want to cover the 5 W's, those being who, what, where, when, and how. The witnesses should be doing 90% of the talking in the interview. Record all the statements in your investigative notebook. If time is a concern, at the very minimum, all answers should be recorded in point form. If any witnesses are deemed important during the field interview, they are to be re-interviewed in a formal investigative interview, and then they can give a full statement. This will be done at a later point. If a suspect is found at the scene of a crime when the officer first arrives, the officer may arrest the suspect without a warrant as long as he has reasonable grounds to believe that the suspect has committed an indictable offense. This is located under Section 495, subsection 1 in the Criminal Code of Canada. It is important that a suspect is taken from the crime scene immediately. When a suspect is arrested or near a crime scene, there is a set of instructions laid out by the Ontario Major Case Management Manual, and it is as follows. 1. If the suspect was in possession of evidence or a firearm, do not allow the suspect to wash their hands. 2. You may need to seize the suspect's clothing and footwear for further evidence. 3. Hair and biological samples may be taken, however, this is only done in certain cases and is never done by the first responding officer. A suspect should never re-enter a crime scene after being removed for any reason. They only may re-enter if there is consent from the officer in charge in order to aid the investigation. As a police officer, it is important to record everything you do and witness in your notebook because it is crucial to the outcome of an investigation and also protects the officer themselves by keeping a record of their activities. Things to record in your notebook at a crime scene would be the following. 1. The date and time you were notified by dispatch. 2. The date and time of your arrival to the scene. 3. Full details of everyone present at the scene of the crime and any action taken by them prior to your arrival. 4. Statements from the victim or witnesses. 5. Details of any evidence found at the scene. 6. Details and a sketch of the physical scene such as the victim's location and descriptions, doors that are open, broken, locked, or open. 7. Details of anything unusual such as nearby vehicles, strange odors, weather conditions, and road conditions. 8. Details and times of all people arriving and leaving the crime scene. 9. Any altercations occurring at the crime scene. 10. The pronouncement of death if death occurs. 11. The conditions, if they exist, that cause for immediate seizure of evidence without a warrant. 12. The date and time of your departure from the scene. Some legal issues involved with a crime scene investigation revolve around the legal search of evidence regarding not having a warrant or having a warrant. There are no legal search requirements for the search of a crime scene unless the offender has some property control or interest in it. However, in most cases, the offenders do not have control or interest over the property. An example of this would be if a person of the public reported a break-and-enter to their business. The owner gives the consent to the police officers once they are contacted, and the offender does not own that property. Therefore, there is no expectation of privacy for the offender. First responders are authorized under common law to enter violent scenes without a warrant to search for victims, the offenders, or weapons to ensure safety of others. Also in section 487.11 of the Criminal Code of Canada, it states that police officers are able to enter buildings to seize evidence under circumstances relating to an offense against the criminal code. To avoid legal issues when arresting a suspect, it is important that the police officers read the suspect their rights. Before beginning an interview with the victim or witness, it is important that the person being interviewed is assured that what they are saying will be recorded and potentially used at a later point. Evidence is crucial when it comes to an investigation. To secure evidence found in a crime scene, the following steps should be followed. 1. Do not move anything in the area of the crime scene. 2. Avoid disturbing or altering the evidence. 3. Use a camera to take videos and photos of every object before moving it. 4. Protect the forensic evidence. 5. New evidence that was found or moved needs to be recorded. You need to record who, where, and when they found it or moved it. 6. The person who sees the evidence needs to keep the evidence in their possession until it can be given to the police and correctly stored. 7. Keep different pieces of evidence separate from each other to avoid confusion. 8. Blood-stained items are to be stored in a plastic bag. 9. Witnesses should be kept away from each other and record their statements while they are separated. 10. If a computer is involved in the crime scene, it must not be touched. Notify the chief, manager, the information technology security staff, and the IT client services as soon as possible. 11. If a computer is involved and it is being used to change computer evidence, turn off the computer as soon as possible. 12. If there is a mobile device or cell phone involved in the crime scene, turn off the cell phone as soon as possible and remove the SIM card. The media is often the first ones to a scene, if not before but right after the police officer, because they are trying to get a hold of the story first and spread the news. It's very important for an officer to communicate with the media in an appropriate and professional way. Anywhere that the public can be, so can the media. When addressing the media, never lie. There have been times where a police officer has lied to the media about a crime that occurred, while a camera that was filming those officers picked up an entirely different situation. This scares the public and it makes the police services look bad. Do not ignore the media. Ignoring the media only makes journalists want to find out more. This could lead them to taking an investigation into their own hands, causing themselves danger or potentially jeopardizing a case. Do not favor one media outlet over another. All media is to be addressed with the same information. This prevents confusion and keeps the media and police on good terms. When addressing the media, do not 1. Guess. 2. Answer what-ifs. 3. Talk about topics you're unsure of. 4. Be afraid to state that you're not sure. 5. Give out information that could jeopardize the investigation. When addressing the media, do 1. Keep your answers short. 2. Provide a small explanation for that answer. And 3. Be honest with your answers.